Okay, N4H&H back with you. So the external speaker is hooked up, and I've got the FTdx5000 and the FTdx10 tuned to 14300, so we can do a little comparison there. I do believe, like I said, I think the external speaker with the FTdx10 is adding a lot more low-end content, probably to the point that you're going to want to go in here and hit your radio setting, go to SSB mode, and cut the low end back. I dropped it down from maximum, which is what I had it on for using the internal speaker. Really, 8 would probably be reasonable even for the internal speaker. I've dropped it down to 3 right now. So we've got a kind of a weak station here on the 14300. I was hoping to, there he is. Let's see if we can use digital noise reduction. Clear him up a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'm going to switch down to the 5000. Now I'm going to turn on the digital noise reduction. I do have IPO enabled on both radios because, well, there was QRM and I didn't want to hear it. Now the filter width, I've got it at 2.7 on both or 2.6 on both radios, and the reason is, some of you pointed out in a previous video, you were trying to figure out why was the FTdx5000 on a 6K filter, and I'm going to show you that right now. If you go to bandwidth here, the filter width, there. See, it's on 2.6. What's the display right here? When you go to 2.7, the FTdx5000 auto selects a 6K filter. Now, I can force it to stay on the 3K by doing that, but when you press in the button here, the roofing filter button, I know that's a little dark because I've got everything darkened down to see the screen on the FTdx10, but when you press in one of these buttons here, one of these option buttons for your receiver chain, it will then go to auto and it'll flash to let you know that it's now auto selecting the appropriate roofing filter. So if I go back to 2.6, it'll then re-enable the 3K roofing filter. Now you'll notice, let me turn the volume up, the audio gets fuller when it goes to the 6K. I mean, there's a noticeable difference just from 2.6 to 2.7. Hear it in the background noise? So on the FTdx10, it has the 3K filter and it stays on the 3K filter. As a matter of fact, let me move back up to it and show you. So up here, the ring on the right, there we go, that's up here with the shift, that will control the width, and the default is 3000. But notice, even if I do go above 3000 on the FTdx10, it stays with the 3 kilohertz roofing filter. These are the three choices you have: 500 for CW, 3K for sideband, and then you've got a 12K that will come in handy, of course, when you're doing AM. So no matter where you put the digital width, it's going to stay on 3K with the FTdx10, where on the 5000 it is going to switch at 2.7K wide. It'll go to a 6K filter. Now I'm going to force this 5000 over to the 3K filter. Let me scan down to it again. So I just cycled through and overruled the automation. just press down or up. And I'm going to hold it on a 3K, and I'm going to widen it to 3K digitally. So here's now on 3K. And I've got the FTdx10 set the same way. So now I'll switch back up to the FTdx10. So we have a pretty good test there. We have a weak station there to work with. And back to the 5000. They're really neck and neck. Let me find a stronger station.
Kilo 1 Bravo Delta. Out of Iowa, November 0 X-ray uniform Tango, and you're 5'9" here in Washington State in Ace Flying, go ahead.
So back over to the 5000. I'm going to wait until he comes back and I'll.
And you take care. This is part of the puzzle for the clean sweep, okay?
Oh, this is good. This is a special event.
Whiskey 6 Lima, QRZ.
There's the 5000.
Kilo 1 Bravo Delta.
And we've got some QRM in there. I'm going to shift. Since it's the higher metallic sound, I'm going to shift
Okay, Harry, we have
negative.
You out of Trinity, North Carolina. You're
But before you
5'9"
use shift, you want to narrow your bandwidth.
to Washington State, and my name is Brian. Go ahead. All right. Well, you got two pieces of the puzzle for the clean sweep. Okay.
It sounds like they're about 2 kilohertz away.
This is a Whiskey 6 Lima QRZ. November 0. Kilo 1 Bravo Delta. Juliet. Kilo 1 Bravo Delta.
Yes, so the QRM area is 2 kilohertz up. Hear it? So I'm going to narrow my digital filter to 1.95. And there's still a little spillover, so I'll go to 1.8.
Ron, take care of 73. This is Whiskey 6 Lima, QRZ. Kilo 1 Bravo
And
Delta.
then you kick in the shift. Since that noise, that QRM area is generating a higher pitched tone, I'll go negative with my shift.
Wait a minute. Stand by. Who's the Whiskey Bravo 7?
Okay, I'm going to
We got
switch
Whiskey
back
Bravo
up to
7
the
radio, go ahead.
FTdx10. And we'll deal with that QRM area on it.
Let me turn the beam a little more south here.
And I'm not using the Mu Tuner or the VRF feature on the Yaesu, on the FTdx5000, because the FTdx10 does not have that. So I'll do it the same way with the FTdx10. I'll combat the QRM area by narrowing the digital filter. So 1950 took care of most of it.
Very good. Well, our bonus call is Whiskey 6 Lima, and later on, Leah, she'll be working the Kilowatt 6 Sierra if you need that one, okay? Well, as soon as I get 2 more out here.
Okay, I'm going to go to 1.8, and now I'm going to shift negative. And I had shifted negative 100 on the FTdx5000, so let's see if that works with the 10. It should.
Turn the beam up a little more north here. And yeah, you're in the log, Jim. This is a Whiskey 6 Lima, QRZ.
And let me point something out to you. When you, let me put the shift back at 0. When we narrow the IF like this, when we narrow the width, the digital filter here, it thins out the audio, right? But
Kilo Echo 0 Juliet Yankee uniform. Randy, you're 5'9" here in Washington.
All right, there's that metallic sound. So I'm going to now go down to negative 100 on the shift. And that's actually going to, I'll say superficially, but it's going to make it sound like we've restored more lows. What we're really doing is cutting highs. But doesn't that sound good? That sounds really fine right now, even though we're only 1.8 kilohertz wide. So we could have somebody, and that was a fairly strong station, we can have someone 2 kilohertz away, and by using these two controls here, we can minimize that interference. Now I'm going to long press. Thank you. One of my viewers pointed out that the long press, I'll show you. Let me show you here just in a second. I want to do a shout out. Boy, that guy is really, really trying hard to get through. He's been in there for a while. But I want to thank Todd for pointing out that if you long press the shift, see, let me show you that you can't see from this angle, but both lights are lit, meaning that shift and width are both being used right now away from their defaults. So I'm going to long press the shift button, and it will restore everything to default. So now we are back at a 3,000 hertz width. See? And the shift is now centered up again. I'm not hearing the interference right now.
You bet. Nice signal out of Maryland, and you're in the log, Roger.
Now, obviously, he sounds more full, better, you know, with the wider filter. But if I'm trying to work somebody with QRM 2 kilohertz away, then I've got to do what I've got to do. Oh, there they are back with a vengeance. So we're going to go back to the 1.8 width. And see, that still doesn't take care of every bit of it. There's always a little bit of bleed over beyond the skirts of the filter. So now I'm going to go to negative 100. It still sounds pretty good, especially when you do the shift.
Bravo Delta, you are 5-9 in New Hampshire, Brian. Kilo 1 Bravo Delta, you're 5-9.
Now I should point out that it's fortunate that station is 2 kilohertz high, and therefore the interference is that high metallic sound. If they were 2 kilohertz below me, their interference is going to sound low and honky, and you can't do negative shift, you do positive shift. And when you do with the 1.8 or the 1800 hertz filter width, it's going to thin it out even more. So this is actually a fortunate scenario here. Just hope that didn't confuse you, but you know, it just works out that since they're 2 kilohertz up, it's going to produce the higher pitched metallic QRM sound. And so we are shifting negative, which is taking away highs, and it's going to appear to accentuate the low end, and so it restores a little bit of that body to it. But if that interference was high, then I would be shifting positive. And listen how thin it gets. Wait till he talks again. There. And of course now I'm hearing that interference because it's high, so I'm actually accentuating it now. So, but if they were 2 kilohertz low, that interference would be low and honky sounding, and this is what you would do. But it will thin out the audio of who you're listening to. So look, we're not talking hi-fi here. We're trying to pull out the station we're trying to work in adverse conditions. But again, in this scenario, the negative 100 on the shift was enough. So I'm going to switch back over to the 5000.
We have your call in the log of kilowatt 3 Golf Whiskey kilowatt.
And I've got it narrowed at negative 120, 1.8 filter width. They're still sneaking through a little bit. I definitely sense that the filtering in the FTdx10, when you're doing everything A to A, you know, I mean exactly the same on the two radios, the filtering in the FTdx10 is a little bit better when it's apples to apples, okay? But the FTdx5000 has an additional feature here that helps, and that is the mu tuner. And if you didn't purchase a mu tuner, then you're going to have a VRF, same button. And that's the pre-selector that tightens the front end even more. Let me go back to the 10. And back to the 5000. Okay, I'm going to disable the mu tuner.
Echo Tango, go ahead.
Just trying to see if the interference is still there. That's a nice problem to have, you know, to go looking for interference. Yeah, there it is. So negative 100. And back on the FTdx10. Yeah, so it's still sneaking through a little bit on this radio as well. They may be about equal. Let me shift up, see if they're verify that the interference is there. There it is. So go to negative 100, knocks it out. I think the QRM moved along. Oh, nope, there they're back. Yep, so it is. 100 knocks it out. It's still sneaking through a little bit, aren't they? Okay, I'm going to go to negative 200. Now, you could also narrow the bandwidth a little more if you want, if you don't mind the fidelity change. There's 1500 hertz, 1.5 kilohertz filter width. That combined with the shift of probably even 160 should do it. Going to go back down to the 5000 and do the same thing. Back to the 10. These receivers are just, and they're right in there with each other. That's great. You know, the smaller radio, okay, it doesn't have 200 watts. It doesn't have dual receive. I like the ergonomics of knobs, but I definitely would not mind having this radio for a base station. When he talks again, I'll switch back to the 5000 real quick. Okay, here we go. Now I want to see if the QRM is still there. Oh, you tap one button on the 5000, the width button, and it takes you to 2.4, which is its default, which is nice to be able to toggle back and forth.
Bravo, November, Quebec. You're 592 here in Washington State. Go ahead.
But the QRM area is definitely still there.
Jim, and the name here is Brian. I think you can
knock it right out. Now back up to the 10. And I'm going to long press. I'm going to long press the shift. See if
is that kilowatt 2 Juliet Victor India?
we'll listen for that QRM area again.
Okay, Bob. Big signal out of Minnesota right through the pile up there. And the name here is Brian, and you're 5 and 9 in Washington State, okay?
Still have a lot of low end in that speaker.
This is Whiskey 6 Lima, QRZ.
All right, there's our interference. So down to 1.5. And now I'm going to shift to 160. It's going to be totally eliminated now. And back to the 5,000. So those of you who are deliberating whether or not to get an FTdx10 and you wonder, well, how good is it compared to the 5,000? I think they're neck and neck. But you be the judge.
Whiskey 5 Romeo, Juliet, Juliet. Golf Alpha Victor, the Golf Alpha Victor, go ahead.
I just increased the digital noise reduction a little bit on the 5,000. It's on 5, algorithm 5 now. Back over to the 10. Just switch back over to the 5,000. Okay, so there you have it. I believe these two are running neck and neck on sideband. So this is, gives you another good sideband comparison between the two radios, but also now we have the external speaker connected to the FTdx10. So, it doesn't have the little speaker in just that's in the radio itself. And that makes it a little bit more of a fair comparison with the FTdx5000 using its twin external speakers. Thanks again, everyone, for watching the video. Thank you, Patreons. And again, shout out to Todd and John and Don for becoming Patreons. I really do appreciate that. If you appreciate the content on this channel, please consider becoming a Patreon so I can continue doing this. And it is much appreciated. Every amount helps. And please subscribe, click the bell, like the video. All those things help support the channel. And this is N4H&H saying thank you for watching in 73.